Welcome to Liberty FM, the podcast dedicated to all things New York Liberty. I'm Felicia, and I'm joined by my co-host, François. The Liberty notched their 8th consecutive win against the Las Vegas Aces with a score of 90-82. This was a battle against two rivals who last met in the WNBA Finals last season. This was the game to watch this weekend, for sure. François, let's get into it.
Let's get into it, and it was a statement win for the New York Liberty. Let's not kidding ourselves. It was an important game, even though it was just a regular season game. But the New York Liberty had to chase the demons from last year after losing that crushing final against the Aces. And even though Sabrina said that's in the past, it's a new season, I think that it must have felt good to beat the Aces after this crushing final. And, you know, for those of you who said, this is not a team that plays together, that is united, really wants to win, well, you saw on that game that they wanted to win. And Sandy said that, they care about each other, just the way they've been playing and how they stay together, even when games are tight or there's some ups and downs. The way they play in the fourth quarter to get the win shows some togetherness, and that was beautiful to watch. So how do you feel about the overall performance of the New York Liberty?
This was an excellent game for them. I think in all the games that we've seen leading up to just even this 8th consecutive win, for the Liberty, they are playing together. Mm-hmm. You're going to have lapses. As we always say, basketball is a game of runs. Things are going to happen. Mistakes can happen on the court. But they find a way to get back together. They find a way to really grind it out together, to get their heads back together and really grind out wins and when necessary. So I think, this is just helping them really solidify themselves as a team. Yeah. And that they're working so well together. And especially Sabrina and JJ, just watching those two, it's so special to watch because already Sabrina has had some really great passes, to Stewie and JJ throughout just various games. But this 2-man game with Sab and JJ, it's a thing of beauty now. Yeah. I really feel like with these two, you see the future for the Liberty. Like, I don't know how long they'll be there. Hopefully a long time. But if you can keep these two, obviously Stewie as well, but if you can definitely keep JJ and Sab on the team, this 2-man game they're developing, it's just going to get stronger. And I really love what I'm seeing from both of them.
Well, we know that they're going to be here at least 2 seasons, like this year and next year, because they're under contract. We don't know, beyond that. But let's just definitely enjoy this tandem that is really growing, learning how to play for each other. And you could also tell the sort of big sister, little sister relationship. And it's almost like, obviously with a pinch of salt, but like almost like Stewie is an afterthought now. Last year, I felt like the Liberty relied maybe too much on her, and she offered some great basketball and was literally carrying the team all throughout the regular season. But then when you saw how tired she was in the playoff, you felt like, they have to figure out how to involve other players and for Stewie to not have to do everything. And I felt like in this game, Jonquel Jones carried the team. Sabrina was the sort of conductor, and Stewie kind of scored just enough when like the team needed to, but it didn't feel like she was forcing things or like she had to like, get to have the ball all the time. So that was great. But let's like analyze and break down this game. And what I noticed was very interesting to start the game is the New York Liberty's defense. We know that last year the Aces killed us on perimeter defense. Mm-hmm. Now, granted that Chelsea Gray was not playing in this game, and that's definitely a huge loss. But even with Chelsea Gray coming back, there are some lapses in this Vegas team this year that we had not seen in previous seasons. So, they still have strong players like Jackie Young, Kelsey Plum, Asia Wilson. So I was very interested, specifically with Kelsey Plum and Jackie Young, how they were going to attack the New York Liberty. But I thought it was very interesting because Stewie, to start the game, was defending on Jackie Young. And that's also the great thing that Stewie offers for the Liberty is versatility. She is a player that is quite unique because she could play the 4 or 5, but she could also almost be like a guard and defends against smaller guards. So Stewie was defending on Jackie Young, and they took advantage of the fact that Kia Stokes is almost a non-factor on offense, except for that game in the final last year when she had a couple of corner threes. But they had Sabrina Ionescu defending on Kia Stokes, which, kind of like allow her to sort of like, come and go on defense or kind of help and not have to worry about, someone scoring on her. And I felt like, even though at the start of the game, the Aces started with a 6-0, after that, I felt like they made the life really difficult for the Aces, particularly Jackie Young, which was very surprising for me. Yeah,
I mean, with Stewie defending, Stewie has the length, and she can keep up. I think for Sabrina, she's worked a lot on her defense. She is getting better. But against the Aces and against Kelsey Plum and Jackie Young, who are very, very quick, their initial step is really quick that Sabrina usually doesn't keep up with, and they will get past her. And whereas with Kia Stokes, the likelihood of her shooting is pretty low, which is surprising because obviously, she was with the Liberty years ago, years ago. And she would get the ball more often. But here, they just need her pretty much as a defensive presence, really. And I think, for the Aces, that could be a crutch for them, going through the season as teams have gotten better this year. And you need every point you can get out of everyone on the floor.
Yeah.
And so having Sabrina kind of in and out on Kia Stokes, like, we're just going to allow Kia Stokes. If she gets it, if she shoots it, fine. We'll take our chances with that versus getting, Jackie Young on fire or Kelsey Plum on fire. And I think, what also, didn't help the Aces was Jackie Young got into foul trouble pretty quickly. And she just didn't, she had an off night. I think it started with the foul trouble and it just sort of continued from there. And that doesn't help because you need, with Chelsea Gray out, you need Kelsey, Jackie, and Asia to really push this team to a win. And with Jackie not having a great shooting night and foul trouble, it also gave the Liberty just that better edge to space the floor better as well, especially with JJ sitting up at the three-point line. I mean, for Asia, that's tough because Asia is usually, she's in the paint. She's going to block whoever's coming. Asia has that on lock. You could tell when Sabrina would get into the paint. If Asia was there, Sabrina's dribbling out. She's dribbling around her trying to find the open man. And she usually found JJ for a 3, which was wonderful. But yeah, in this game, I think, with Stewie starting to defend on Jackie Young at first really helped, kind of keep the defense honest and keeping the Aces honest. And even though it's a game of runs. They started with a 6-0 run. The Liberty came back, kind of settled things down. The Liberty have done well in first quarters of pretty much all their games this season. So we knew this was going to be a back and forth game, period. These are the top teams in the league. Don't let the Aces record fool you. Yes, there are some things they got to clean up, but yeah, I wouldn't put the Aces wherever they're ranked right now. Yeah, I don't see them staying there that much longer. So for the Liberty, they needed to get this win. They needed to have this win and continue this run together and have this, just build that momentum for each other too.
Yeah, I mean, that first quarter you were talking about spacing, the Liberty hit 7 of their first 8 free-pointers. And it's almost like a blessing and the curse with the Liberty because they start first quarter so well. They dominate their teams. I think, we had, seen that stats the other day that they're kind of like plus 80 or more than plus 80 in the first quarter. So they start very strong. They usually shoot pretty well in the first quarter, but after that, it was kind of like very difficult for the Liberty to have that same percentage, especially in the second quarter. They could have been up by 10, 15 or something like that with that kind of shooting. But unfortunately, they also have the Achilles heel, the turnovers that really kept the Aces into the game. And I think that sometimes the Liberty tend to become a little complacent when everything goes their way. Because the second quarter was the usual collapse, and the Aces started to play the game a little bit more. I know that Kelsey Plum started to find favorable matchups when she had Sab on her. She attacked her once and had the N1 and had the audacity to do the too small gesture, even though, in the end they lost. But she had that N1 on Sab. And I think Sab, I do want to applaud her because she is better on defense. She's not there yet completely, but she's definitely better. But there were a couple of times, once again, where she had some lapses. And when they decided to switch, she didn't really communicate fast enough or at all to allow other players to cover the players she was guarding. And I know that at some point Kelsey Plum got a free after a nice screen. Jackie Young also had a free. So the Aces were still in this game and at some point took the leads in the second quarter, and you get very frustrated because the Liberty, after the first quarter they should be ahead. But like you said, it's a game of run. And the Aces are not the two-time defending champ for nothing. I will
say, though, that for a second quarter, the Liberty didn't do too bad.
They didn't do too bad compared to other games,
Compared to other games, their second quarter wasn't that terrible. I mean, they lost that second quarter 23-17, so they only lost by 6. I mean, they were up by 8 in the first quarter, and obviously, the Aces are a strong team. They're going to come back, and they're not just going to, lie down. So it's, you expected that both teams were going to come out. If this was going to be a juggernaut, they were going to come out hitting. And that's what happened in this game. I expected no less. And so I think for the Liberty, even though they lost that quarter, and that was the only quarter they lost in this game, they still have to see some progress there in the second. Usually, I feel like in other games, it felt more like a collapse in the second quarter. And this time around, it was just a fight, to really stay in. And obviously, you have weapons on the Aces team that are just really strong. And Plum, Jackie Young, Alicia Clark, everybody they're throwing out there, they can shoot threes. They can all shoot. And so I think that is something, the Liberty with their defense and just the communication they have to get better at. They have to get crisper as the season, rolls on. The Aces will figure out certain things. I think, maybe for the Aces, winning back-to-back championships is hard, and it's hard to gear up for a third. It's hard to really try to push. And I think Asia, in her post-game conference, you saw how passionate she was for her team. And I do think, for Asia, this is any season. This is like that Kobe Mamba mentality. Pick one of the top players out there in various leagues. She has that mentality. I don't care that we won 2 championships. I want more, and I'm hungry for more. And I think that hunger is just not shown in the rest of the team. And so, I think they'll figure it out. Yeah. But for the Liberty right now, they got to keep their foot on the gas, keep going, because right now they look like the hungrier team. I'm glad they are the hungrier team. And, they got to go out there and battle as much as they can, while the Aces, they can still try to figure this out while we still collect these wins for right now.
Yeah, I mean, in the second quarter, like you said, like you felt like, it could have been worse after, not really shooting very well in that quarter. But they stay composed, and I feel like Jonquel Jones and Breanna Stewart definitely play their roles as leaders of the team. And Jonquel Jones, she's been on fire those couple of games where, she has scored over 20 points in the last 3 games. And I felt like, her being aggressive in the paint, making it difficult for A'ja Wilson. And I got to admit that battle between the two, because both of them were bringing their A game. And, they were still able to disrupt each other at times. But because they're such great scorers that, they still find ways to score. And I love the fact that JJ was really, pushing a team and helping a team by scoring in the paint. And then I also like Stewie's game against the Aces on Saturday because, so far this year, she has had her worst shooting percentage when it comes to shooting threes. She still didn't make any threes in that game, but instead of forcing, she find other ways to score. And I like what the Liberty were doing when they feed her top of the key. And, she quite often cooked Kia Stokes but with those mid-range. There was one shot that was in the second half when, she had that shot on leaning on one leg that was really impressive. But I felt like she was not forcing her shots this time around and finding better options for her. And the Aces still made it really hard because there were a couple of shots where it was really contested, but she still made them. But I like that Stewie scoring in the paint, mid-range, instead of like continuing to shoot threes and then not getting in. So they really help us to stay afloat. And at half, we were up by 2, which was great, all things considered. But what was very telling, I felt, was like some of the different interviews that ESPN had with the Aces players. I'm still questioning all the interviews they do, whether it's like the coaches during the game or, walking with the player at halftime.
They need to stop that. Let people breathe.
Yeah.
Let people catch their breath.
Yeah, or like A'ja, I think it was at the end of the third quarter. They had just finished the quarter and then, they interview her and she said, I need to catch my breath. But it was very telling that, the Aces were tied. And, something that I don't think they were really doing last year when they kind of admitted that the Liberty were a good team. Like, this time around, I felt like they were kind of admitting that, it's a tough matchup. The Liberty are a good team. Kelsey Plum was saying that halftime. So, I felt like, it's a wounded beast that you could actually beat. Last year I felt like mentally they kind of got the Liberty where they wanted to. But I felt like a certain strength and calm from the Liberty that I had not seen last year. So I was very hopeful. Unfortunately, the third quarter didn't really start how I was expecting it. But instead of like giving up and let the Aces overtake them, they didn't lose their composure. And after maybe 3 or 4 minutes, that's when the Liberty started getting on fire. And they went on a 14-0 run against the Aces. And I think what was the turning point is a specific lineup that Sandy had. Unfortunately, in this game, Kayla Foran didn't necessarily have a good game. She was starting once again. Vandersloot is still out. But I felt like she was not necessarily the right player for this matchup.
Yeah, she wasn't, not for this game. I think with the speed of the Aces, she couldn't really keep up as much. And so with Leonie Fiebich coming in, and Leonie Fiebich got more minutes than KT, in this game. And it was just a better matchup. She has the length. She can get there. She has, even on Kelsey Plum, Kelsey got by her a couple times, but Kelsey Plum is fast.
Yeah.
So it's not easy to defend on her, but I do think that she limited her, especially with her length, that she can really disrupt players on the court. And she also got 8 points, in this game. And so I think she just had better decision making, just positioning on the court. And it's good just to see Fiebich. I think when she comes into games now, you see just how much more comfortable she is and just playing and getting those reps in and knowing where to be. I think she's just more comfortable and doing great things on the court for the Liberty right now. And I think, yeah, she probably will come in more often just by her skill set and what she provides on the court for them.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, the general manager, Jonathan Kolb, had a plan. He did say in the exit interview that, he wanted to strengthen the bench, have more size and versatility. Mm-hmm. And, at first, I'm not going to lie, when I was reading the comments on from the Liberty fans, I felt like, a lot of them were doubting some of the decision making from the front office and some of the players they got. And I think it's, mostly due to the fact that some of those players are known players in Europe, but not necessarily so much in the U.S. And I think it takes time, Fiebich and Dojkic, arrived late in the training camp, or Fiebich didn't really have any training camp. Kennedy Burke, they mostly rested her after a long season in France. But when Fiebich, Kennedy Burke were on the court with Betnjiah Laney, they definitely offer some, great versatility. And even when sometimes in their rotations they were making mistakes, because they're so quick and, with their wingspan, I feel like they could really, recover from the mistakes. And they were really disruptive. And when it came to, the Aces passing and the number of times they, disrupted the passing, stole the ball, that really helps the Liberty making a run in that middle of the third quarter. And I was really pleased with that. And you could almost see the Jonathan Kolb's plans come to fruition in that moment. And that, maybe people doubted his vision, but it needed to take some time to gel, and now it's finally clicking. What did you make of that, that trio and how the defenders...
I need Kennedy Burke to have more minutes.
Yeah.
She was definitely disruptive. I think she's also getting more and more comfortable with the team, which is great. She definitely, when she had that jump ball with Asia, I mean, she's quick. She's quick with her hands. She's definitely getting in there to get the ball. She has that length. I forgot what they said her wingspan is. It was
6'3", I think.
6'3".
Yeah.
She's 6'1", and she has a 6'3" wingspan. So, she can definitely get in, and even with the mistakes here or there, on defense, they can recover quickly. And I think that is what helped the Liberty as well, is that you have players that can recover quickly and get to their spots quickly. And so that was huge for them. I think Fiebich and Burke are huge assets, along with KT. This just wasn't, KT's game, and that's fine, But I think for those women, they're huge assets. And even for Betnjiah, it helps Betnjiah too. Betnjiah can stay on her person, and even if they switch, you're not worrying about defensively with those ladies, do they have it? Do they got it? They're going to lock their person down. And so I think it's just a huge help also for Betnjiah defensively.
Yeah, so, after having a 14-0 run, the Liberty had a 23-7 run since the middle of the third quarter. So they were on a roll, and I would really like us to focus on two players in particular that we mentioned earlier in the podcast. It's Jonquel Jones and Sabrina Ionescu. Mm-hmm. Who do you want to start with?
Oh, man. We gotta start with Sab.
Okay.
JJ is the highlight of the night. We'll end on JJ.
Okay. So Sabrina Ionescu, I'm not gonna say that she's having a breakout season, because she had a tremendous season, especially last year. But this year we're really seeing a new phase in her development. And I was thinking about her selection in the U.S. team. That, she has been putting the work to get where she is right now. And I read an article saying that, the committee, the U.S. committee, had high expectation for Sabrina, but they gave her a couple of tips as to what they expected from her to make sure that, you know, she prove herself and make the team for the Paris Olympics. And I feel like she really took on board those advice because, like, the way she plays, and, you know, sadly it also is linked to Van der Sloot being out. But, you know, her being the point guard, and she's probably going to have to play point guard for the U.S. team, the way she plays, where, you know, in the past she would kind of panic when the defense would be really, like, putting a lot of pressure on her. But now her decision-making is much better. The way she reads the game, she doesn't panic. There were a couple of times where they were putting pressure on her after the, you know, pick and rolls with Jonquel. But she continued to dribble, you know, be aggressive, and that kind of forced the Aces to switch on defense. There was one player where Asia had to switch and be on Sab, and Sab, you know, at the right time passed the ball to Jonquel, who had an easier matchup in the paint. And I felt like maybe last year she would have either tried to force a shot or lose the ball. And so I'm really impressed, especially, like, you know, the last two games. They played the top teams, Connecticut and Vegas. And, you know, she was tremendous in a crucial part of those wins against, you know, some of the best defensive teams in the league. But yeah, what did you make of, enough of me talking? What did you make of Sabrina's performance overall?
Sab is just getting stronger and stronger, you know, as the season rolls on. I think she's definitely made a huge improvement from last season to this season. And it shows, you know, I think that she is huge. She plays a huge role for this team. And for Sab to come out against the Aces, and, you know, I think, you know, we know last season the Aces sort of picked on her, knowing, like, even when we were watching, if Chelsea Gray or Jackie Young or anyone was on her, we were like, oh no, we were defense.
Yeah, we were scared
against them. You get a little nervous because, you know, defense, she's more an offensive powerhouse. And so, yeah, Sab has just been phenomenal this season, and I don't think teams were necessarily ready for that.
Yeah,
I think she may have taken some teams by surprise with just her versatility, driving, making just smart decisions. She's not going up with the ball that easily for it to get blocked or, you know, to have a turnover. Her head is on a swivel. Like, you know, she's driving, looking for her teammates to get open shots, to get better shots off. And I think in that, you know, she's just become a better player. And yeah, she's going to play point guard for the U.S. and for the U.S. team. Yeah, she'll be a great asset there. And with Sloot out, it also gives Sabrina the opportunity. She has such vision on the floor, and her quick decision making is what helps the Liberty too. I think it's better, like, you know, you miss Sloot, but Sabrina is an excellent backup for Sloot to have that vision on the floor more than anyone else on the team. Everyone else on the team, if they're bringing the ball up, maybe outside of Stewie, I would say Sloot, Sabrina, Stewie can bring the ball up as well, but I feel like...
You're not mentioning Betnjiah Laney?
Betnjiah gets some...
She's still learning, I feel like, to be that sort of second guard or second point guard.
I think her decision making, she second guesses herself sometimes, and she gets caught. She gets caught when she stops her dribble. Now she's stuck. She has to pass it. She gets caught in these indecisions that she has on the court, and you see it happening, and you're just like, what are you doing? But then she comes right back and she does great stuff. So I think that's just part of the learning process for her and getting better and getting better. But back to Sab, I think Sabrina, this is a great year for her. And she has, you know, two of the best bigs in the game right next to her in Stewie and JJ. And what more can you ask for when you have one who was MVP last year and one who, can we say, is having an MVP-like season?
Well, you know, according to Sab, she's the best post player in the league. That, you know, some people had something to say about this, but how you not gonna hype up your teammate who had, a career high with 34 points?
Yeah, you gotta hype your teammate. I know people want to be like, well, Asia's better. Okay, Asia's having an MVP season too. I'm just saying, JJ could be in the conversation. Asia's having a phenomenal season, but I think JJ has the right to have her name thrown in the ring as well. Despite, obviously if the vote was today, we know Asia would get it because deservedly so. She's having a monster season. But JJ is coming up. She started the season well, and it's just gotten better. And I think, for her, with her team winning, that also helps. And she's a huge, just impactful player. Like, she is your X factor on that court. As we said, if you're not feeding JJ, your team's not going to do well. When JJ's getting the ball, she is leader on that team, and she is making the right decisions, and she is attacking. And I think if the Liberty are smart, you keep feeding JJ, you keep pushing with JJ. Stewie is going to do what she's going to do on the court. Stewie's going to do all the little things, and I think I see that now. Like Sab, I feel like she's not taking a step back.
Yeah.
But I feel like she's letting Sab and JJ develop into who they need to be, kind of guiding it almost, I feel like. I could be totally wrong, but I feel like she's almost sort of guiding this. Like, she's going to get her points. When it comes time for Stewie to take over, she'll take over when necessary. But I also feel like she's allowing her teammates to rise to the occasion too, and I definitely see that with Sabrina and JJ.
Yeah, I mean, I think Stewie, because she's so good and, can do so many other things that, she's still very impactful. So she might not score as much if Sabrina and JJ are on fire, but she would do all the other little things, She would have a lot of rebounds.
Yeah, she had a lot of rebounds in this game.
She was guarding Jackie Young, who had only, 7 points or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
Let me look at the box score. No, she ended up with 10 points. But, usually Jackie Young is 15, 20 points per game.
Yeah.
Especially against the Liberty, she usually does very well. So she would do all those other things. And, you don't need her to score 20, 25 points if you have JJ and Sab at this level. And so now let's talk about, Jonquel Jones. I have to also say something because this performance was incredible. I mean, the fact that you have a big that can stretch the floor the way she does, she was on fire in the first half with 3-point shots. So that kind of forces Asia to get off the paint. And I think that what was very telling, there was a play where, New York defended really well and then went on, had a fast break. And JJ run that floor like you wouldn't believe. And Asia was so far behind. And then they got the ball, I think it was Sam. Fiebich, that passed the ball to JJ for easy layup, and Asia mentioned it in the interview at the end of the third quarter that she was like, I need to, I don't know if it was at the end of the third quarter or post game, but she said that I need to do a better job on defense because the way JJ outrun her, that was a thing of beauty, and then in the fourth quarter, the Liberty had an 18-point lead. After another free by JJ, who had a little Hunger Game, thing after the free when the Aces called the timeout. But yeah, the Liberty, I don't know if they became a little complacent because they had a strong lead with a couple of minutes left. But when the Aces made a tiny little comeback, she kind of put the game to rest with a couple of mid-range turnaround jumpers that are things of beauty. And so 34 points, a career high. And, she could be in the MVP conversation as well. I mean, we talk about Asia Wilson, Nafisa Collier, Alyssa Thomas, but JJ, the way she's been playing, deserves to be in the conversation. And she probably has the ball less than those players. So, in terms of usage, you could argue that if she had the same, she would probably have, the same stats, if not better, than those players. But I would say apart from maybe a couple of games where she was in foul trouble and got off the game, probably the two losses that the Liberty had against the Sky and Minnesota Lynx, I feel like she's been balling. And she only had 2 fouls in this game. Yeah. So everything was, working for her. And, she had Mr. LeBron James at the end of the game, dabbing her and showing his respect, he knew that, she a baller. So
yeah, I think, for JJ, yeah, she had a few games, this season where I think just mentally, like with the foul trouble, it got to her, and she was out of the game mentally, in a couple of games, especially like Minnesota, even I think Chicago as well. And so, yeah, once JJ can lock in and know, like, you're a leader on this team, we need you to stay poised and lock in. You gotta be smarter with the fouls. And she locked in, and she has just turned that part of her game around to just be who she needs to be on the court. And she knows, like, between her, Sav, and Stewie, you are the leaders of this team, and you need to lock it down, and we need you on the court. So I think just for her understanding, like, you can't let foul trouble start playing into your game. You need to remain on the court, and so in order for your team to be successful. So for JJ, this is just a great game for her, and I hope it continues. The Liberty know they need to continue to feed JJ. This game, this matchup was one for the books, I think, for now, because they only play I think they play the Aces 2 more times this season, so we'll see how those go, but that's later on, in the season. And so JJ will continue to get stronger, I think she does definitely deserve mention in the MVP race. We're early in the season, so we'll see how it goes, but yeah, if they continue to get JJ feeding her, and she can just have more minutes, yeah. I mean, why wouldn't she be in the conversation for MVP?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny how things can turn around between October and now. Mm-hmm. So many people, I mean, I had to get off social media after the Liberty lost that final last year because, it wasn't necessarily good for my mental health to see that. But afterwards, when I sort of look back at it, so many people were trashing the Liberty. And, there was that controversy with some of the things that the Aces players said. And I would still, to this day, remember what Kelsey Plum said, that, they're not a team, they're not playing for each other, that you could tell, like, almost saying that they don't like each other, they don't have that thing that can make a difference. And maybe there was some form of truth. They were still learning to play together. Yeah. They had been together for only one season versus the Aces. The core group of the Aces have been together for quite some time now. But I felt like it was so unfair what she said. And the Aces kind of like having that mentality of like us versus everybody else, when I was like, you're the darling of the WNBA. Everybody enjoy the way you play. Asia Wilson is one of the best players out there. You have some, entertaining basketball. So to have that kind of mentality and sort of portray the Liberty like this, like for me, I had a bitter taste about it. And now, they're going through some struggles, Yes, it is definitely not easy to, after a back-to-back, to try to go for a third title. I think the only team that managed to have a three-peat were the Houston Comets. So it is not something that is easy. And the last team that had won back-to-back were the Los Angeles Sparks in the early 2000s. So it is definitely not easy. But like now, they're kind of struggling. The Becky Hammond after the game said that, they like hunger, and she could tell it from the first day of training camp that something was missing. And, now I feel like the fans of the Aces are making excuses for them, and they were not, they didn't have that much grace for the Liberty that were going through those struggles last year. So it's funny how things turn around. I'm definitely not worried for the Aces, once Chelsea Gray comes back and sort of get back into a rhythm. And I feel like, it's a long season, like you said. There's going to be the Olympics coming. Mm-hmm. So I'm definitely not worried, but they definitely look more vulnerable. and the Liberty seem to have an edge at the moment against them. And I think what was very telling was after the game, Jonquel Jones, when she was asked about the biggest differences from October to now, and she said it was the trust. She thinks that the Liberty trusted each other to make the right plays, to do what we're really good at. Sabrina got downhill, found people. Everyone just did what they're good at. And that they understood that it's not an individual thing, but we're all there for each other.
Yeah, you see that on the court. You definitely see how they come together. And last year, this is a team that, for the Aces and, with Kelsey's comments, after the final, it was a team that just came together. It was their first season, and it's impressive. They got to the WNBA finals.
Yeah.
And so that was just impressive just to be able to get there in your first season coming together. But yeah, they had to learn the system. You had new players, learning Sandy's system, learning to trust the players that you have on the court that you haven't played with. And just, they needed time. And I think this year you see they trust each other. They're out there. They're bringing everyone else in, especially, folks from the bench who are coming in, that they're learning that system. They're getting more comfortable. Everyone's getting comfortable with each other now, and you see how that will produce wins for them. And people will do the little things, even if someone is, having a great game. Like JJ having a phenomenal game. And everyone else, they're just doing the little things, going after it, getting the rebounds, defense, everything, just to get the open shots for JJ, making sure you're always looking for the open man and the ball is popping. And I think in these games, it's so important for the Liberty to continue that, because they just build off of that, and that will help their team to hopefully at the end of this season be able to say that they're WNBA champions.
That would be a wonderful feeling for one of the original teams in the W who is still winningless when it comes to titles. And there was the other day I saw an ad for WNBA caps, and it was almost like a baseball kind of cap, like baseball style. And I was like, oh, they look so cool. And I was like, wait, where's the Liberty one? And until I realized that it was made just for teams that won a WNBA title.
That's whack.
Yeah, I know. So, you have that feeling like, oh man, we still haven't won a title. But yeah, I mean, we definitely on the right path. The season is still very long, and, we don't know what's going to happen also during the Olympics, and anything can happen. We hope that there won't be any injuries or whatsoever for any player of the W. But, there's still a long way, but definitely a positive sign so far how everything is clicking. And for us to be able to beat the Aces in Vegas, it's crazy because the Las Vegas Aces ended the season last year with 6 losses, and they already have 6 losses right now after that loss. So definitely not the same season. But we'll see how it goes. So we'll take the win. The Liberty, with that win, have now a record of 12 wins and 2 losses. They're still second in the standings because Connecticut is, despite
they're still on the road.
They're still on the road, despite the loss against the Liberty. They keep on winning. So they're on the course as well to have a tremendous season, a record-breaking season. But they're top of the league at the moment. And what is strange is that if we were ending the season right now, and you look at the playoff, the Liberty would face the Aces in the first round, which I hope won't happen, because you don't want those two teams to face in the first round. No. But that's the matchup currently. But we'll get there when we get there. But next week, after a pretty chill week with just one game, we're going back to like a crazy schedule. So on Tuesday, the Liberty will face the Phoenix Mercury, who are on the high right now, with finally the squads be at full strength. So that's going to be a tough matchup with BG and Rebecca Allen back on the team. And they just beat Seattle today as we record the podcast. So I feel like it might be actually a little tougher than the Las Vegas Aces.
I do think this game will be tougher for sure. And I do think you're gonna need Fiebich with her length as well, with Rebecca Allen on the court, BG. I'm curious to see JJ up against BG on the court, but it's gonna be a battle.
Yeah,
you know, everyone's battling. A lot of teams got stronger this year, so everyone's battling for position right now, and this is not going to be an easy game for the Liberty. So, again, they got to play together. I still think Phoenix has some holes, and the Liberty could exploit that. But they just got to play smart, and they got to stay poised in order to get this next win. But I do think the teams that they're about to face, I know you have Phoenix on Tuesday, then they have LA for 2 games.
Like a back-to-back, not back-to-back, but they're playing like two games in a row. Thursday and Saturday, so it's almost like a playoff series. Teams are going to make adjustments, so it's not going to be that easy to face the same team, almost like, back to back. So, that should be interesting, and, interested to see Cameron Brink playing in New York for the first time. Mm-hmm. And then after that, they have pretty much a back-to-back, so playing against the Sparks on Saturday and then going to Atlanta on Sunday. And even though Atlanta, is struggling right now, it's going to be a tough matchup because you would have played them on the back-to-back.
And these are teams that, listen, there's only 12 teams in the league. Like, it doesn't matter where they're at, in the standings. Everyone is hungry. And everybody wants to win. And so they're going to come hard. Every team's going to come hard at the Liberty, especially being number 2. Just like Connecticut, they're only half game behind Connecticut. So you got the top 2 teams in the league. Everyone's aiming for them right now. And the Phoenix, they're coming at them. And, with the Liberty on this, brief road trip, we hope they notch the win. I think they have all the tools to do that. And they just have to make sure the way things are set up that they execute. And I think they can totally execute and be effective and get a win.
We'll cover the game on Tuesday against the Mercury, 10 p.m. Eastern times. Always tough, those West Coast games for the people on the East Coast, but we'll cover that game. And as we always say, Felicia,
let's go Liberty!